I couldn't. I wanted to confirm.
Okay, we should be going live real soon here. And make sure if you got YouTube open, make sure you have it muted.
I don't think I have it open.
A little mution YouTube so you can see the comments.
Yeah.
I don't think it. I don't know.
Oh, I see it now. It's on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, good.
I
We're
don't
we're
think.
live.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
sure.
So we've got Chris and Whitney here, talk a little Stuef.com. But before we do that, I wanted to bring up a couple of things that Galaxy pointed out to me. He was supposed to join us, but he's fishing with his son, which is a good thing. So Whitney, were you part of the Fenn chase, or did you come into it late?
no, I wasn't a part of it at all.
You
I
are
started.
more sus than I realized.
No, I know, I know.
We're
I'm
all
telling
sus.
you, anything that like even I find I'm like, wow, that's kind of weird. But no, I started afterwards. Like I normally will like listen to podcasts when I'm painting, and I just stumbled upon a podcast actually.
Uh,
So I did that, and then one thing led to another, and now here I am. But no, I
so
was never part of the chase.
that's crazy. So somebody else just recently I saw on Speakeasy, I think was it Riper Days?
Yeah, I think she started with a podcast, and I think G started with a podcast.
Yeah.
But I think they're the only ones that I know of
So
that
you were
started.
never part of the chase then. That's
No, and honestly,
crazy.
I'm kind of glad. I'm kind of glad because now I feel like I don't know. I just feel like I would have been way too obsessed if I'm like this with like a podcast and like a website. There's no way I would have been done like okay with the chase.
Oh, well, to me, the chase was much easier in this than any of this other stuff. Like the
Yeah,
podcast, I didn't really participate in that. I mean, I
yeah,
listened to it, I thought it was interesting, but I didn't really do anything with the puzzle or anything. Didn't
yeah.
I was kind of taking a break, after the whole chase thing, just kind of being a lurker, kind of, well, I guess I wasn't really a lurker, but I was kind of paying attention to that. And then the Stuef.com came around, which is weird because I got an email when this all started
That's what
and,
I hear.
and pointed it to Ben, basically. And Ben kind of ran with it. I didn't really run with it. I just kind of stayed, back quite a ways, but I'd bring it up every once in a while. But that's kind of my story is I kind of, since I just joined Discord in January,
Yeah.
I wasn't even on Discord until
Wait, how long? When did you start the chase? Like what year?
it would have been 2019, Memorial
Oh,
Weekend,
so like
2019.
the end of it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
towards the end. So yeah, I mean, I dabbled in it like years before, like 2 or 3 years before that, but
Hmm.
that was just like having a little fun with the poem and Googling a few things, and I was done. I was like,
Yeah.
there's no way anybody's going to be able to find this. And then I just had an epiphany one, Memorial Weekend 2019,
That's all it takes.
and that's all it took. Yeah, it was kind of, my story is more of ended up being kind of a spiritual thing more than
Yeah.
anything. Now, it may have not led me where I was supposed to go for the treasure, but the message I got from it was, hey, your family that's sitting right in front of you, that's your treasure.
Yeah.
For
And I think
don't worry. Yeah, yeah.
so it
So
looks
that's
like
what I took out of it.
you
So I wanted to share something before we get started on Stuef.com. Oh gosh. So I moved my screen. So my YouTube screen is over here with the chat. It used to be on the other side. So now my mouse is going opposite of what it's supposed to be, which is driving
it's
me
funny
crazy.
that my iPad is sitting on this desk and I've a couple times grabbed this mouse like with my computer behind it, like acting like it's gonna do something with this iPad.
So now I got to come back over here and share screen. Let me get this up here. Give me a second. Okay, can you all see that okay?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So Galaxy sent me a text the other night, and it was about this question and answers on the fenndiagrams.com. I'm pretty sure I was aware of it, but I probably didn't pay attention to the question and answers because it's the last tab there. Oh, hang on a second. Hang on. Sorry. I gotta let my dog in. Before she goes crazy. Holly, hon. Holly. Holly, come here. Come here, girl.
Will the finder of your chest have permission to publish your 20,000 word official autobiography?
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
the
want
question.
I don't want my autobiography published because it has not been edited and I want to change some things in it.
Isn't that pretty interesting?
Yeah, what's this from? What year is this? When is this? What is this stuff? What is this?
Let's see. I don't honestly have a date on it. I don't even see any comments listed, that would have a date on it. So I honestly don't know.
So first round.
That's the first rounds of questions between whoever this person is, which is, I'm assuming they go by Water High, and I don't know who Water High is. So yeah, I thought it was interesting that if that's truly Forrest answering these questions, which it's got to be, then I find it interesting. That would be why the olive jar could never be opened, because that was Fenn's wish, probably.
Well, you got to think too, in the context of how the ending of the chase is perceived, right? With
Right.
Jack Stuef, as he the finder, and some degree, the finder sort of gets the choice of what they want to do with it, and that could have something to do with editing it.
We should be going live real soon. Okay. I'm
Make
sure if you guys sorry. Open.
Oh, no.
Okay, there we go. I clicked the wrong screen.
There we go.
Sorry. See, even Whitney, I have technical difficulties all the time.
I know. I couldn't even turn my sound on, so it's okay.
So anyway, that's the first question. The second question is, will the subtle clues in the book be explained somewhere, sometime? Maybe you have a book to publish once the chest is found. So it's basically kind of like, even if it's found, will your subtle clues in the book be explained somewhere, sometime? Answer is, the hints in the thrill of the chase text will not be made public because they would say more than I want to reveal. Discovering which hints to use is part of the mystery.
I feel like I remember him again, I don't know. I was not a part of the chase, but I feel like I've heard him say that before.
Yeah.
The second part, right?
I feel like the answer to that question there is not a Fenn answer at all. It does not look like a Fenn answer to me.
Yeah. And that could be. But it kind of does sound like something Fenn would say. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe he would say, but the way that he writes, he doesn't write this way. He doesn't use these types of words together. He creates more of an open-ended dialogue with all of his answers in a Q&A like this. Mm-hmm. It's not direct. He's not going to sit here and tell you discovering which hints to use as part of the mystery. That's like a pretty broad, like we get that. Like he doesn't.
That's the part that I've heard before. This discovering which hints to use as part of the mystery. I feel like read that somewhere.
I don't remember that, other than the fact that Stuef has told us that that's sort of it. It's like part of it is not throwing in clarity. The mystery is the hint, but I don't remember him saying it verbatim like that.
Yeah. But also, where is this site from? I'm always like kind of skeptical. Like
it's called the Fenn. It's called the Fenn diagrams. So I assume it's a person named Water High. I don't know who Water High is, so because I wasn't around then. So I don't know who this person is. I reached out to somebody and asked them about if they knew Water High, and they said no. And I'm sure there's some people out there that do know who this is. I just thought it was interesting about the autobiography.
Yeah.
That it can't be made public. It shouldn't be made public because it needs to be edited. So I thought that was interesting. I just wanted to, that might give a little bit of meaning to why the olive jar has been such a mystery. Maybe because it went to JCB in his treasure hunt, which is not going to happen till October, and then probably won't get found till another year or two. So let's say, well, that gives, let's say, Shiloh plenty of time to put a book out if he needs to. That's just a theory, or the fact that maybe Shiloh doesn't even know what's in there either. I don't know. Anyway, I was going to go to the, oh, where do we go here?
I
Second
mean,
round of
I,
questions.
I like it a lot because it leaves it open the way that you're talking about the editing of the olive jar. If that comes from Finn, that's interesting because you assume that he wrote that to put in there because that's the story, but now he's telling you that the story can change, and um, that's interesting.
The second round is not that big a deal, really. It's about talking about Doug Preston writing his memoir and so on. The third one, I just want to point this out to you, people. So be careful clicking on this link. I'd be careful clicking on too much of anything on this site. The reason why is because I clicked on this and my phone went crazy and said there was tracking software being installed on my phone. I have
Ugh.
I have antivirus software on my phone, and I did do some double checking to find out just to make sure nothing was. Today while I was at the AT&T, I was discussing it with him, and he had me click on it, and it took me to a telesupport website or something like that. And he goes, yeah, it looks like either they've been hacked or the link that used to be for this um, has been re what's that word I'm looking for? It's been relinked to somewhere else, basically. But anyway, like I said, the first time I did it, my phone went crazy. I'm like, oh crud. So anyway, just I wouldn't click on that, but it was very interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just wanted to point that Galaxy noticed that on that first round of questions, and I too thought it was interesting that Forrest makes a comment that it needs to be edited before it gets published, which may be why we haven't gotten it. Um, that's pretty much all I had for that. I'll stop sharing now.
Huh. The fact that there is a link that's hacked on a website like that where nobody's even visiting is interesting too.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So where do you all want to start with this Stuef.com? Do you want to go through the lyrics of the newest song? Something I
Yeah,
noticed about the AC/DC song Back in Black is the original version of the song is only 4 minutes and 13 seconds, not 4 minutes and 14 seconds.
yeah.
I don't know if that means anything, but people were like looking for movies that had a release date of 4/14. I was like, well,
Hmm.
maybe it's 4/13.
Yeah, so you got a plus one minus one deal going on there. The
Yeah,
same
yeah.
way with the the way you added up those numbers, that there were the little scrapbook numbers up there. I think that created a plus one because we had the area codes, and then it brought us to a 404 and a 406, I think, in a way. And then I can't remember what it was in between. I don't know. It was something interesting that ended up giving that plus one minus one vibe.
Mhm.
Uh, so 413 would, the same way you said AT&T earlier, your ears are gonna perk. You're just gonna be
I know. When I hear a 14, my ears perk. I'm like,
yeah,
it's another 14.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
yeah,
So here's something
okay.
I'll throw. Go ahead, Whitney. Do you have something you want to say?
It's okay. I'm sure I'll get to it. I'm sure.
So I'm big on numbers, like A
Hmm.
equals one, B equals two, C equals three. So if you've got AC, DC, it's
Hmm.
one and C, and then you have DC. Right. But also, so AC/DC, if you look at those numbers, they're 13-43. And speaking of which, that's what I forgot to do. How old was Forrest when him and Skippy took that little drive and Skippy dropped him off between
Is he
Shoshone?
like 17 or something? I don't know.
I was trying to remember if he was 13. I forgot to look that up today.
It may have been, yeah, something like that. I don't remember actually what it is. I do think
Well,
that.
well, if I look at so the whole DB Cooper thing, when I think of DB Cooper, there is the 423, but
Mhm.
that's not his real name. His real name that he signed was Dan Cooper, DC. I've
But I
always
also think that they've harped on 423 being DBC. So I think that I mean, your ACDC converting that to numbers is like valid.
Hmm.
So I mean, although yes, it was Dan Cooper, it's brought up multiple times, easy as 423. So
Yeah.
I think that is definitely something that you could use in some sort of solution.
Hmm.
So I also think that you know the song is and the lyrics are obviously important, but it's also the second ACDC song. So are the both the lyrics important, or is just the singer, or like I don't know. I feel like obviously we need to look at the lyrics because one of our songs said listen to the music, but I think that we shouldn't forget there is another ACDC song.
Right.
Absolutely. And it's called Thunder. And in this case too, you get to marry it up with stuff that isn't there, right? In
Hmm.
my eyes, like we have AC/DC, but we also have an American flag on top of a teepee. So when we go and listen to the music, where this music came from was it starts matching up with stuff that disappeared out of the room, right? So we
Hmm.
had a random Uncle Kracker song with its name. Where did it come from? Maybe its attributes. You get UK. And then we also had, what was it, Welshie Arms, which represents Wells. Then we get the UK within London and Sherlock Holmes. And we start developing a UK sense. And I was watching chat, Billy mentions Marvin and its name, his origin is from Wells. So I think you're talking about where the pirate ships are English and they're crosses from the Templar and things like that. I think building up that because that's where a lot of treasure hunts originate from, and like maybe the Knights Templar as well. But I'm just guessing from just pure vision of what I can see. There is like a UK some sort of development, whatever it is. It has something to do with over there to get to over here. I don't know. But
Right.
I think because here's the thing, like AC/DC, you have one is an Australian singer and then the other one's a UK, but they're both born in the UK. And then Bon Scott actually was born in the UK and died in the UK, but he was Australian in an Australian band. And then you get Brian Johnson in there. I believe he is from the UK as well, but we're talking
Yeah.
about an Australian band.
And you see what number he's wearing, number 22 in the official video.
Uh,
I thought that was interesting.
I like that they're choosing names that are like for you, Brian, because here's the deal. Like, there's not, other than Ben, and Ben gets thrown out as, hey, you're sus because we are seeing things that are in the room that are describing you, right? And Ben's like, hey, hold on, I don't have anything to do with this. Well, Ben is the only one also promoting Stuef.com, right? He's the only one doing live videos other than you. Now all of a sudden, Brian, you start doing live videos. Now we have our listen to the music who is singing the music is a Brian. And you're the only Brian right now that's promoting Stuef.com. We have one Ben that's promoting Stuef.com. And so I think you're starting to see little things match up, but they're really good at using the right thing to connect it all. They're
Right.
able to go find this stuff before we can.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I thought so. I was going over the lyrics today, going back over the lyrics, and I thought it was interesting how they, I got 9 lives, cat's eyes. Well, what do we know that was in the vault pictures was a cat sitting above the treasure. Now, that may not mean anything. That's just me looking at things and trying to, you know, what is Stuef.com trying to accomplish by giving us this song? You know, there's a lot of things in here that you can look at. A lot of it sounds like Jack. Back in black, I hit the sack. I've been I've been too long. I'm glad to be back. Yes, I'm loose from the noose. So what were they just recently talking about was, Justin was trying to get a hold of Jack to release the agreement that they had that he couldn't talk. I thought, it's kind of like yeah, there's a lot of things going on and you just don't know where the rabbit holes are. We have no confirmation of anything. That's where
And
my frustration is.
that's what's dangerous about it is you can find so many connections from
Yeah.
all the little things.
And I keep forgetting that I'm sitting here sharing my Google. I'm switching over to my YouTube.
You gotta be careful over
I'm not showing anything I don't need, I guess. Yeah, it's kind of funny.
Ryan ain't got nothing to hide.
I don't have
So
nothing to hide. I'm not sus.
yeah, you are. He's the sussest. All
Yeah.
right, so
Have you all went over the lyrics like word for word? And
I mean,
yeah,
I've listened to it a million times, but
yeah, yeah.
so I
it,
got out a piece of paper.
okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go.
I was just gonna say I got out a piece of paper so that y'all could probably read off the lyrics, and I'm gonna in my head write down what it matches to. Like when you say Back in Black, when that song came on, the lighthouse appeared in front of the black glasses. So I can look at it that way, and then I can look at it the same way that if it's connecting to its last song, that's a different way to look at it. And then you also
Right.
have another way to look at it with the two artists, one's dead, one's still alive. It took over in a tributing way that is a unique also experience. And then so you can look at it in that direction. And if we can get a few directions going on with ideas between several of us in chat here, you may be able to come up with something that overall makes sense. So that way you can get to the next idea, whether it be the last update on secondhand lions or guessing the image on the TV now. But I am in like pencil and
I like
paper.
the way you said that. One is dead and one is alive. So when you relate that to the chase, what do you think of? Two people can keep a secret if one is dead. That's what I drew from that, what you just said there.
Yeah, no. And so Jack is our person that is alive in the game. And right now he has his website, which he called the greatest placeholder of all time. So if he's gone, but he can't say, then, we follow his lead. And so we got to look at it all angles. He can't tell us the answer, but he's giving us the hints and we can create solutions out of that, but they're theories until we figure out answers to the theories so we can
Well,
eliminate.
I put in Discord, you talk about the singer, Brian, he was a replacement, like a placeholder. That's kind of a play off those words too.
And
Y'all,
then
I mean, this isn't our. I'm like looking at my notes right now, and y'all are gonna correct. This isn't our second ACDC song, is it? Oh, it is. Okay, Thunderstruck. Duh. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. That was on 18.
I just
So
assumed,
it was on 11, 14, by the way. There's another 14.
yeah.
the the other thing that you can look at too is There's only two songs in the world out there that are popular that have the thunder in it. And we already have two Imagine Dragons songs in there as well. They also have one of the most watched YouTube videos in the world is Thunder by Imagine Dragons too. So I like to even think into those terms. They may be leading back into some old stuff, which gets us back going into our own history because we're curating all kinds of different answers.
You
So
want
as
to go ahead.
As far as like connecting stuff, I'm gonna pull up my notes again. So we all know that I'm like a podcast pusher over here, okay? So just in a pretend world, just jump on the train, okay? And just hear me out. So in this week, I don't know how much was like discovered this week. When I like checked in earlier today, it looks like we still don't know the movie. But so what I did this like each night this week, I've been going through the episodes of the podcast and trying to connect them. And the first thing that sticks out, which I think we've talked about before, but I don't think we've like talked about it in just like in length. But in episode 5, they talk about the Treaty of Guadalupe. Update 5, we have Our Lady of Guadalupe. So right there, both the 5s, they match. Then if you go to update 6, it was our time update. That's where we got all the time things. When on episode 6, he goes into the definition of draw, and he talks about how it's like, I didn't write it down, but I just put draw. Like I do quick notes. Draw is like to come to a point in time. So again, it's about a time, like a timestamp or something like that. I don't know if it's like, if we were to use this with the website, do we use time as in like our song length or a date and time like within Discord? So I kind of played around with this. So, and here's where I go back to the podcast, and y'all are just going to have to roll with it. So in episode 5, they had Barbara Anderson in it. And I will say at one point in the podcast, he says something about for our purposes, something, like talking about his guests that he has on. So that always kind of stuck out to me that he's saying for our purposes. Like there's obviously a purpose of why you're using a certain name on a certain, or like there's a reason why he said that. So if we have Barbara Anderson, it goes back to what you said, Brian. If we have Barbara Anderson, that's BA. And then episode 6 was Dave Woodard. That's DW, which again, 5 and 6, I mean, is everywhere. It's in Stuef's name, June 5th, 6-5. I mean, 5-6 go hand in hand, in my opinion. So if we have BADW, which I know that sounds stupid, but bad W, because we did have good Sam, right? So we have bad W, which sounds ridiculous. But if we take the numbers from that, we have 21423. So February 14th, 2023. So I went like, that's Valentine's Day of last year, right?
Yeah.
And then I told Hammertime this last week. Was this last week? I can't remember. My days kind of run together. Okay. So I tell him this, and he was like, "Oh yeah, he was in a band called was it called just Valentine's, or what was it?"
Oh, yeah, there was 2 of them.
Or something.
Yeah, the Valentines.
So it automatically like brought back the AC/DC thing. So then I start going through, of course, now I'm like working with 2/14/23. And again, I wake up every week with something new. So this week, this is what it is. Next week, it may be totally different. So, but anyway, so we go on 2/14 again. Like I literally have it all written out. But so we have, oh yeah, this is one day I remember I got pulled into discussion because somebody was talking about the meat commercials that are on episode 7. So I was like already on 5, 6, and now they're talking about something that's in 7. It's the beginning of 7. So it's like going in order, and they start talking about Mad Men. They make the comparison about how John Hamm might have been DB Cooper in Mad Men, and like that conspiracy. So then looking at episode 7, you have No Paddle Up Your Creek was the name of it. And then in update 7, we have all the fishing stuff. And that was also on 8-1, which ha ha ha, you know?
Mhm.
Am I losing y'all?
No,
Okay.
no.
And I don't go very much, but I get to 8. That's all I get to. And then we have kids, so you know, we only can go so far. I will say also on our update 7, it was 3 minutes and 22 seconds. So if you look at a keypad, DBC is 322. So I don't know if y'all remember, but it ended with a phone call with the podcast. So I was like, okay, are we picking up the phone now? Like in this world of these updates. So then, oh yeah, and that was another thing. One of the quotes, he said something about clues 5 through 8, you're like in the water. So I don't know what this means as far as Stuef.com, but I'm still working it out, okay? But then episode 8 and update 8, both were DB Cooper. That's all I'm going to say about that. But I think that there could be connections, and I know I'm a nut for even pushing that it's like season 2, but I mean, that's all I got.
I mean, I've often thought that too, that this was like maybe somehow a continuation of, X marks the spot.
Yeah. Well, I
But
obviously do, but
but
there's not
mainly
many, Brian.
because it ended the way it did,
But I think that's the beauty of it, honestly. Like, I think it was supposed to end like that because that's, I mean, not scenario by scenario, but Fenn's chase ended like in a weird conspiracy. So
Right.
I think that that's the difference is people that were already in the chase probably looked at it different because they had already gone through that. And me, I have like fresh eyes. Like, this is the first time. So I'm looking at it like, okay, well, this is obviously a setup.
Yeah.
So I'm either delusional or like I'm just gonna keep making notes, like maybe in the nut house. So
Well, I mean, I hate to point it out, but I know Ben's watching, but even his impossible poem kind of
I don't
struck.
right now. I'm, I'm still not over it.
Yeah. So I hate to change the subject real quick, but the county I live in Boone County, Missouri, they're doing a treasure hunt. It's a $30,000 treasure hunt. It starts July 13th. Well, the funny thing was on their Instagram thing, one of the first things they posted was about masquerade. And I'm like,
Oh my
oh,
gosh.
you shouldn't have done that. Because it ended in scandal. Go ahead
Yeah,
now. I just thought it was interesting. They posted, I'm like, oh gosh, of all things you posted.
I know. And that's another thing is trying to use, I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna eat my words, but trying to use masquerade has been difficult. And then trying to use, I mean, I say that, but I mean, we have a flashlight. So, I mean, like, if there's bending of any sorts that we need to do with the room, like maybe it's just showing us to like reflect or whatever. Um, but Masquerade is a hard one. And then they also mentioned Goldbug, which has been shot down before, but
Yeah.
So I have something I guess to ask. Like, so when we bring the DB Cooper stuff into light, because eventually, if these things keep happening, it'll just grow like an acorn, right? And on the other end of DB Cooper, right now there is a group of 10,000 people that believe that anybody else in the world, with the exception of Finn, would have anything to do with it at all. Do you think that if this is something as a resource that we trust, do you think it's possible that we are closer to finding out the identity of DB Cooper and his shenanigans than anybody else in the world out there actually sleuthing for DB Cooper? And he's slowly letting us know who he is on the other end of it while they're looking at the wrong direction, but still passionate. They're just, they just didn't do it right. and they're way off? Like, do you think that it's possible as our small group of however many people want to believe that Fenn had the capability of doing miraculous things to make us believe that we're just closer? He allowed us, his favorite people that loved him the most, to be closer to who he was as identity before anybody else because we participated. And then he was just smarter than everybody. If
Well,
it is DB,
I've kind of shared with you, Chris, that, you know, I don't know if we're ever going to get the DB Cooper, Dan Cooper mystery. I mean, it's possible, I guess. I mean, hypothetically, yeah, it's possible. But tied to Fenn, that's even possible too. Um, the guy has never ceased to amaze us, you know. But I always wondered if maybe that is a mystery within a mystery, you know, kind of like maybe we're never going to know the 9 clues. We're never going to know what the final ending was. And that's part of the same, just like it's a mirror image of the Dan Cooper mystery, you know. I don't know. I've kind of threw that out there to you one time and you're like, yeah, maybe, but it is possible that, I guess, like you say, you know, I mean, Packer Jack is kind of, well, he's already written a book about it, you know, about a suspect, you know.
and and that's what I'm talking about is so. But that book is shared more in a DB Cooper community, while we're constantly maybe being hinted at DB Cooper. Do we, as like collectively as a group, somehow create ownership off of that for in a degree of our puzzle? Is what I'm saying. And the likeliness of what are we here for, and what are we going to shoot for out of this? Because we're getting DB Cooper on the other end of it. So here's how I look at it. Fenn had wrote a poem and told us that it was a map, but he said that you had to marry it up to something real, right? He gave you a poem. It's not a map. It's just words. It can lead you anywhere on the planet. But if you take it and you marry it up to a real map, a good map, something that you can see that's real, I don't care what it is, it's a map. Would that be the same as taking his stories and marrying them up to something real that happened in real life? Is the map that we need to marry it up to, is that significant? Is it a significant map? Is it a map of China? Is it just a regular map? Do we question what type of map? Is it Google Earth, or does it matter? Do all those stay open? But still, we're marrying it to that, and he told us to do that. Do we take his stories and take them for what they are on the surface? So do we marry them stories up to similar stories in life that are extreme, that we shouldn't think about because he gave us a character of likeliness and who he is and we love? We can't dare think that he could do these things, especially DB Cooper.
Yeah.
I
But
don't know. I
wouldn't
even
that
like
point?
talk about D. Cooper because I don't know as much as you do, so I wouldn't be able to like keep up with whatever you're talking about. However, I really do go back and forth just personally. I go back and forth about if we're here, like you said, if we're here to like figure out who DB Cooper is, or is that like a red herring? Are we marrying up to dates? Like I was talking about, like the word draw is brought up, and are we marrying it up to dates and time? Is it, for example, if we go back to Leroy, Jeremy's Leroy, even his video when he's talking about DB Cooper, he's talking about how he was like basically a distraction, and he talks about aliens and everything else in the same video. And the way that he did that was he was in a sense marrying it up to a date. So are these things brought up to us? Are they pushed to us, like, in chat or whatever? Not because someone may know his real identity, but we're supposed to use it in a different sense. I don't know. Again, I don't know as much as DB Cooper as you do. So I know that you're like a fanatic over here. So I'm like just trying to shut up a little bit.
Well, and Chris does, but when I got into the chase, DB Cooper wasn't even on my radar at all. In matter of fact, it wasn't even on my radar until after the find, and people started talking about it. I'm like, my gosh, did I just not see this? Well, it's not that I didn't see it. It's it wasn't part of my chase story. But
Yeah.
also, I wasn't a DB Cooper person either. I wasn't following that. I wasn't following that story, basically. It didn't lead me there. But Chris, he started out early. He was on the DB Cooper thing with Stephanie 30 Acre and Mindy.
I've
And
always got my eye on Chris.
yeah, yeah.
We might be friends, but I've got my eye on him.
So here's part of my theory, okay? And I like to be upfront with a lot of things, especially when I'm in a comfortable zone and I'm talking to people that I'm comfortable with. Like, that's possibly part of it, right? There's possibly a reason why we get led to certain things. And I don't know why that could be, but for the game purposes and us not knowing how things are continued through clarity, we have to be able to do something significant so that it's known through a whisper or whatever, right? So like we have to do these things in order for us to get answers. You know what I mean? And the only way that we'd be able to get answers that way is if people started maybe all like realizing this, that their ideas and someone else's ideas can be like merged together. And the overall big picture is just, God, I emphasize this a lot, and it's not even DB Cooper. It's more. It's literally more than that. But it's the biggest thing that you can hint at that gets the point across. Hey, this is some crazy stuff, and you know how far a rabbit hole I go down on it, Whitney, and that's even crazier with it. But I think that's what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
We have we got to find a way to make it into a story so that it can happen. And so I think solving Stuef.com helps that. I didn't say solving, but utilizing Stuef.com to get like-minded people to do little jobs so that they can be a part of the story equally, and we can share what it is. That's all I can say on like my end of it, because there's no other way to interpret it other than for y'all to go with the flow.
No,
Right.
I know. I mean, and obviously it's not just you that's bringing it up. It's other people in Discord, but I mean, it's also, you can find 423 things all over the place when you talk about Fenn. So it's valid. I think that I'm not saying that he wasn't or he didn't know who. I think this story would be big, but I also feel like there could be something bigger, which I don't know. I know that sounds ridiculous because knowing who DB Cooper is would be really big anyways, but I mean, I feel like there is, I don't know. When our first song talks about who killed the Kennedys, I feel like that is a bigger, like, in my opinion, like there's something else that is being hinted at, and DB Cooper, again, he may have had some idea who he was, or if not him, however, I feel like it probably has more to do with the Kennedys, in my opinion. But like, I'm a newbie, so I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm surprised you even wanted me on over here, Brian.
So, Whitney, have you read Thrill the Chase? Have you read the book? Do you have the book?
And I have the book. I've read through the book. I've skimmed through the book, but I haven't studied the book. Like, people will tell me things. I'm like, I think I read that somewhere, and I'll have to go. I have the worst memory anyways, but I'll have to go back and like check myself. But yes, I have the book and I've read it, but I've read a lot of stuff in the last couple of years too. So yeah.
This has been the only movie clip that we haven't gotten before an update, right?
Right. When we didn't get one, they changed it, but it was still the same movie, but they just changed scenes.
Right. Yeah. where it was a
So
little
maybe
easier.
with our next one, they'll
That was
throw,
Fool's Gold, wasn't it? Fool's Gold.
yeah, yeah,
But I feel like that's probably what we're going to get tomorrow. I assume that we're going to get a
yeah.
new.
Do you think it'll be a new scene for the same movie?
I don't
I mean,
know.
we'll know if we get that movie if it'll be the same scene, I assume, at
Yeah,
some point. But do you think they'll move past that and we just have to figure it out down the kind of like that, whatever that damn lock is, in the corner?
yeah. I don't know. I go back and forth with this too, but a part of me just thinks all the other updates past like 9 or 10 are just re-emphasizing ones that they gave us before. So yes, I want to know the movie. Yes, that would be great. But I feel like the most important ones are to me, 1 through 9. But because even like with this, I think it was 30 and 31, I saw 5 and then I saw 6. So, I mean, it could be me being biased about it, but I mean, I think that this may be another update that is either pointing back to another one, or like I think I said it yesterday, but like maybe like a mini game or something. Like it's just almost a distraction of, hey, let's keep spending more time figuring out these new updates when all you really needed was 1 through 9. And like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of the time has been wasted arguing, in the mornings, or just, it's just all just hearsay after that.
Yeah. Well, and
So
that's like I said, that's what I said earlier. That's my biggest problem with Stuef.com is we have no confirmers of
yeah,
anything.
yeah,
No. Now, maybe we're supposed to get confirmers from a movie scene or a song that shows up like, oh, you got that right, or maybe but there it doesn't seem like that's what's happening.
yeah.
It's like that little icon. I mean, I can share Stuef.com. I got it up here. But it's like the little icon. Has anybody figured out where that came from? I don't think they have they?
Which icon?
Like the tribal looking one.
Yeah, it's on.
Yeah, I don't think we've found an exact match.
I've
Uh,
I've I've tried to even mirror this, down the other way and did a Google search and got nothing. Um, yeah, I don't know.
it's I mean, we can see that it's tribal. I think that's kind of part of it too. Some of these, if we don't find a match, I don't think that unless the admin is hiding something, the only thing that they would be hiding is something we could index, which would be a keyword.
Hmm.
So we can reverse Google image the search. And if we don't find a match off, I mean, God, how many different tribal variations are there? Is it really purposeful to find the exact match? So if we do, then it tells us exactly what our next move is. Well, we already know it's tribal. What do we need to do? We need to look at why it sent us to this exact website. And that would give us a keyword, kind of like our movie scene last time, where it's an Adam Sandler movie about basketball. And then you put the compound words together and you get basket and ball, and then Sandler. I don't know. Like you just
I know I remember you talking about that, and I thought that was a like good connection. That's kind of what I mean too with I saw 5 and 6. The little timer said Maritime, and then our lighthouse is owned by Maritime, or however, I don't know. Is that how you pronounce it? I could be insane right now. Anyways, it doesn't matter. I saw 5, and 5 you have Mary, like Our Lady, like she's her name, Virgin Mary over here. And then we have Time, the next update. So it's Mary and Time. So I don't know if they've just always hinted back, or, if it's gonna matter if we know this movie or not.
yeah, I think we have dopamine hits now at this point that we're getting from Stuef.com, and so we're just so anxious, and we've been spoiled with getting the answer if we didn't get it. And I remember saying last time that they would probably wait because at the same time they gave us a song that was called "I'm Not Gonna Give Up." It was
Yeah.
the White Flag song. So I'm like, there's no way in hell they waited what, 10 days or 14 days before they gave us the casino logo. And then it was pretty quick with Fool's Gold though. So on Fool's Gold, we couldn't get it, but immediately when the ship came, it was it was the exact direct scene before the scene they had originally posted, which was the
Yeah.
restaurant of the Pelican Bar. The same thing with Casino. So whenever the casino deal, it was the hit the casino exact same thing at the scene before it hit the jackpot, and then the dude unplugged it, which was our first scene of him unplugging it. But then it went back exactly like one frame to the casino jackpot and gave us that. So somehow they knew already that if we couldn't get the scene, that maybe that previous scene, if we did get that, that was also part of the clue as well, because they ended up mashing. You ended up using 777 everywhere. And then we ended up using the plugin everywhere, even though they were completely separate in all contexts. We didn't realize subconsciously we were using keywords and compound visuals. He's plugging something in. Now we got a pitcher and a catcher. Now we got an enemy and a foe. And now we got these weird things that are not in the system that aren't right. And then we're, developing this trait of a criminal that may be good, that does things of a precise way so that it stays that way and he doesn't get caught, or it helps people or whatever, so it doesn't get, it works. It just,
Right.
it just works.
What was the last when did we have Leroy last?
He got kicked off.
Let me pull up my notes.
That's the one where he was above the O and underneath
The listen to the music, I think, is whenever he got kicked off.
The fact that you just pulled that out so quickly, I will keep note of that. I'm just kidding. Even me, I like have like a list of like all these things, and I'm like, I don't know when the last time he was up there.
Yeah, there's so much going on Stuef.com. It just to wrap your head around it drives me crazy. I've had the thought that maybe
Yeah, you're right. It was when he's under Clark Gable's hat. That's the last
yes.
time we saw him. That was update 24 on
Yeah.
February 24th. That was our 224, like our Noah's Ark update. That was the last time we see him.
So that Clark Gable hat to me is a Clark Gable hat, but it also, when you go in to talk about how you talk about Chat Whitney, where things are suspicious,
Yeah,
that to me brings Tyler into the conversation because he wears those hats all the time. And for some reason, like that exact hat that Tyler was wearing, but Ben's also talking about Clark Gable, gives the advantage to the room to be able to hide something within something else. So when you get two things that are alike in the words but completely different in the world, you're able to now create a mystery in between it because you have something that's questionable and subjective. We got Clark Gable because Ben's talking about Clark Gable, and that's where he was, and talking about the fishing spot and Pyramid Lake and all that shit. And then you have the same exact world that Tyler lives in. He moved to Montana, and now he's posting pictures of himself wearing these cowboy hats, and he's a real thing as well. And then we got a movie context and a real person context. And I
I'm
think
looking at that right now, like the Clark Gable one. So, I mean, you've brought up the Tyler thing to me a couple times, and I never can get on board. I mean, I'm not, there's just there's nothing else I can connect. But can you connect anything else? So let's say there's a spoon/paddle, okay, that they have in that one. The Noah's Ark, Against the Grain, and then the movie was Now You See Me. I mean, I don't feel like Leroy, when he moves, I feel like he has another agenda anyways. I feel like he may not match it. So you may not be able to find any other connections, but
All right, so here's how, if you want to call me suspicious and then I want to theorize that Stuef.com would be hinting at me the same way you would think that it would be hinting at Ben, would be because Tyler shares an attribute with me. He doesn't participate, but we share a very, very common attribute, which would be our birthdays. And so, because Tyler has the exact same birthday as me and it's known in public, they could use that to basically spread the word of myself, right? If you wanted to use, hey, what did Hammertime say in chat? Maybe it was something that we can use. We're the only ones talking, all right? So you're talking, Roll's talking, Brian's talking, I'm talking, Ben's talking, Bear's talking. All of us can see a piece of us within that if we're actually participating. But how are they going to get the message across if they don't emphasize it enough? And if I can use something in a source of like Tyler is very crazy and outgoing in a certain way, they could use that also because to hide it. Like for me to sit here and look crazy and talk about it, Tyler is just as crazy now because I'm using him to bring him into the chase. And that's the only way they can communicate is through those attributes.
No, I mean, I don't think that you're crazy. I mean, if you're crazy, then I'm crazy. I'm just saying, I don't know Tyler as well as you do anyways. So it's already going to be harder for me to see those things. I mean, I think if they do anything like the other day, sorry, I hear a kid crying, but I'm just going to ignore it right now. Sorry if you hear that. I'm hoping that they work that out.
No, we don't hear anything.
Okay, good. So, but like the other day, when I was talking about the mini game thing, I saw that Roll was talking about something about look out for the rocks and for, and then right after that, he talked about something about AC/DC. And I was like, well, that was weird. On a date that was, it was already on a date that I already looked at. So I don't know if, okay, let's pretend that it was about Tyler. Okay. Could it, like we talked about before, could it be something that we were supposed to marry up with a timestamp or something like that? Something that we're not just zeroing in on him, but maybe something he said, or I obviously think that Discord has a lot to do with this website. Otherwise, their logo and a link would not be as big as the image itself. So there's got to be something that's already been said in that chat that someone has to find. Like the answer is already there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's going to take somebody that wants to admit all of that. And then when they do admit it, and if everybody leeches onto that, they're going to want answers of why. So what happens if Stuef.com just comes out and says, all right, this is the answer? Is everybody going to believe that? Or is it just going to be another thing that goes by in some case? And I think that's why maybe like Masquerade, XTMS, and these other side quests were left open, is so that they can be built into the overall picture of it, because it's all the same stuff. It's the same keywords. It's the scrapbooks we're led back to that give us the same thing that you said. You only need you only need updates 1 through 9 to really kind of know, but they do it different variances. Now it'll be 10 through 18 or whatever, and then so on and so on, to create a pattern that we can read over time so that it's always there. But like the way that we look at it, how Tyler could be connected.
Look at it like surface level stuff, even like thinking about it, like Mary being in one and then time being other, like doing our wordplay that we always like to do. I mean, you're talking about marrying it up. Well, you marry it up with a time. Well, also like Stuef admin, like, are we supposed to add the minutes? You know, like it's like stupid stuff like that I think about. Like, and I mean, they probably could have just put that word in, but like I overthink everything anyways. But like you have admin, and then like in the podcast, he says you tally up the time. So to me, I'm like, okay, well, I hear two things that sound similar. I'm taking two different platforms, and I feel like it's going to be the same thing here, where I mean, it may be something with Tyler that Tyler said, you know, like I don't want to discount that idea. I don't think Tyler is at the end of this as like the answer, but I mean, I think that, I don't think he's behind the website, but he could have a hint. I don't know.
So I think that it would be Tyler in like a sense. All right, so um there's something that you had said in chat before, maybe Whitney, and that's maybe why we're seeing auras of Nashville. And because I mean, let's get real. Like, what, and other than Stuef being in Nashville, all of a sudden we have a player that shows up in his life that's from Nashville, and it's a secret that he was there in the first place. It was weird because it's the only is the ending of the chase, right? It's when he sold off the contents of the chest, and here we are now at his website, and then his favorite player. You're one of his favorite players, Whitney, and you're from Nashville. The last place we have him at is in Nashville. So to me, it's a coincidence. I can call you like sus or play that, but it's placed there in front of me. And we've discovered under the elements of things that it goes a little bit deeper between like a whole entire wordplay with it on my end when you come into play for me. So I protect the things that I've come up with during this chase. The whole decade I've been working on that, and then as long as I could before that I knew about things as well. And I've kept those things as close to me as possible for integrity of things, so that way we can curate a whole good integrity of creating the story so it can be told, because it's just the story for us to tell. It's there, but it's not ours. We just get the benefit of telling the story to everybody and answering the questions and doing what we want with it. And that's the editing part, is we get to do that if it's in that context. And there's no other way you can do it. Like, we're just going to continue getting these rabbit holes and pulling rabbits out of a hat. We're never going to see the grand reveal until everybody shows up to see the show because it's will call is plenty available right now. And once people, so here's what's going to, all right. So do you think that people that are like, if you're an FBI agent, right? I read this today, and this chimes in, and I'm glad that Riper brought this up a while back. It's from the Gardner Museum heist. I keep that dearly undercover because it's crazy and how you can relate it to the chase. But there was a guy, an FBI agent, that was involved with the Gardner heist. He was responsible for basically putting Whitey Bulger away. As soon as he did that, he switched sides and went and worked for this the Nixon Pearson law firm, which it's a high grade law firm for people that would not be prosecuted by the government. So you're a defendant type of attorney now, that you're getting the people that you were just putting in jail. Now you're getting them off. And so you went from that hole. And I look at things like that in real life, and I try to see how that would happen as far as manipulation into the chase too, if it becomes that. But those are real things that would connect into, say, like a DB Cooper. All right, so an FBI agent that was hoping to catch DB Cooper, he's going to see what people are talking about in the real world. He's going to be looking at what Eric and Nikki are talking about, or Ryan Burns, or all what Packer Jack's writing in his book. I guarantee you there's been plenty of law enforcement people that read Packer Jack's book that was like, man, I wonder if I could pick up off of this and see if I can help and catch this, because people are all thrilling about the chase. So I wonder if you can take this fantasy that we've created in the Forrest Fenn world, not to make Forrest Fenn a bad guy, but say that he's telling us these things under our breath so that we can get the story in its winding view. Because that's where the clock ends up like being a time bomb, is whenever you get that first hit and people catch on. Now you got to really get it winding. Right now is a good time to basically get the mystery world caught on to, hey, what if a couple of these mysteries are tied together, y'all, and they're all right here.
Yeah.
Like the JFK and DB Cooper. Yeah.
I would say I would go back to JFK. Like there will be stuff that changes the outcome of how we looked at things. Enough time has passed for Gen Z to forgive and forget the crazy stuff, even at 9/11, right? They weren't around for 9/11 to feel the emotions and the effects on these things. And they weren't, some of these kids weren't even around for when we were in war in Afghanistan or Iraq, or all these troops have been home. So they don't really know what's going on that devilish side of things. So they're more apt to laugh than they are to cry whenever we're talking about these too soon things that we've gone through. And so we get them captivated into it. And then the real world of the people that are passionate about, oh, well, I did see this and I saw that and I saw this. Now you got a team of an audience, a legit audience that's like, hey, what's going on? And that's what you want. So you can actually get what you want out of the chase, which is a story. You'll get it because you're making the story. And then two, you get a profit out of it as well if you're part of it. Because that story, if it's true and real and it's original and it is what it is, it'll turn into your wallet. It'll turn into you. If you want to be famous, it'll turn in for you to be able to do things that you want to do, write books, answer questions. Right. People will give you things to do for them because you're part of it on the very highest level.
You know, you mentioned Gardner a while ago. Do you remember our conversation we had last week about Gardner?
God, I've had a few of them over the past few days.
Don't you? Oh my gosh.
Hold on, let me go back and look. I had a few conversations this week about the Gardner.
The Finder, the other guy, cowboy that's kneeling, who says he's the man from back east. And oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank. It's in Maine, Augusta, Maine. Well, when I looked up Augusta, Maine, guess what is right south of Augusta, Maine? Gardner, Maine. You know what the zip code for those two places are? 043 ... Dan Cooper. I mean, just that little connection may not be anything, but it was like when I saw that, my mouth just started like, "Are you kidding me?" Kind of crazy.
There's not anybody
Gardner tonight.
Yeah, well, there's not anybody that's really connected the Gardner other than not to DB Cooper. It's not, I would say, connected. So here's how I think DB Cooper
Captain Kidd, Forrest mentions Captain Kidd, Gardner Island.
And then that relates to Edgar Allan Poe's the gold bug, because it's similar in context. I'm not painting a Fenn as DB Cooper.
Amelia too.
Huh?
And I said you still could say it connects to Amelia Earhart too.
Yes.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And all of them should have some variable in it, because when you're thinking about theorizing, right? All right, so here's the idea, right? Let's just say that all of the DB Cooper evidence and all of the Gardner Heist Museum evidence, and then whatever, God knows what else out there. Let's pretend for a second that Forrest Fenn worked in the CIA, but he was maybe a good, resourceful person. He was able to get criminals in trouble by putting them in positions to take advantage of them. So let's say he knew about the DB Cooper heist, or he even was, but he had access to the evidence, and that was it. No one else cared. He was just in a high power situation. No one could question him off of, hey, where's the 1,000 of those $20 bills at, bro? He's like, no one would question him. So that's the type of status that he had. Then as he networked through the CIA, he became friends with people that were wealthy. He was able to put people in positions to just have his own game at this point. And that's where it bleeds into like the Gardner Museum heist, to where each item that was taken was specific enough, but he was able to hire a team to do it, that they were a team that they could never say they didn't do it, because they would lose their reputation if they did. right? So let's imagine the Winter Hill Gang or something like that had actually done it, but they ended up giving up all the evidence right away because it was worth $10 million, and that's what they got away. And but they were allowed to say that it was their story, and it just created a snipe hunt for the FBI. But it was actually controlled by the inside as a game. And I'm talking, this is stupid, but somebody from 19 whatever 69, 70, I don't care, up until the, I would even say in the 2000s, someone had the ability to make these things happen without even getting up off the couch. This, he can make a phone call. Hey, can you have this done for me? Yeah, you're calling me to tell me to do it. You know, those types of people. I think that that may be who he could have been, and he was able to just make it big for everybody and not just one person.
Yeah. What do y'all think about the volcano time clock?
I'm so like, I don't know. I don't even know how to feel about it because I'm like, every time there's a countdown, there's always a new one right after it. I mean, this one's a little different because it is a volcano,
Right.
but at the same time, I'm like not getting my hopes up either.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess we'll see. I mean, either way, it may end with another update with more things for us to just discuss and everything else. I think the most important thing for us to do is just go back to the beginning and then try to like restart again. I do this every week. I like I come up with something different. Like I'll go through like a phase. I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna try this time and whatever. I haven't like run into like a wall yet with this one. You know how I with those updates that I was talking about earlier. I had, you know how Eric got his name from America and has like Eric in it. I was like looking at the word Guadalupe, and I was like, well, there's Dal in there. And I was like, okay, maybe Dal's in there. And I was like, well, our timestamp's 414. It's DN. I was like, okay, well, maybe I'm like, I don't know. There's no confirmers, so you kind of just have to me, making notes through the podcast and then making notes now. I'm like, it's got to make sense at some point, hopefully. But I mean,
Yeah.
with a new countdown, I'm like, okay, well, because it looks a little different, maybe something else will change that's a little bit bigger. I don't know.
Right. And
Or here's what
the red draws my attention into it a lot because then you've only got a few items up here that are red. You
yeah.
know, I thought that was interesting. They picked that color.
I'm like fully anticipating, this is just a conspiracy, which I was never a conspiracy person before any of this, but I've turned out to be the biggest conspiracy person ever. But I'm just anticipating the point where like everything's gonna be wiped, like everything. I guess also, I mean, that happened with Dell's website. It happened with X Smart Spot like forum. Like I'm like, okay, well, I feel like Discord is something's gonna happen, or we can't check that chat anymore. If you didn't pay attention, well, it's too bad because that channel is gone. So whatever needs to be discovered before that happens needs to happen now. I mean, again, I have no idea if that's going to happen, but it's crossed my mind that it's going to be gone.
Right. I mentioned in Discord today, I'm starting to change the subject.
No, that's okay.
I thought about it 2 or 3 times and I keep forgetting to mention it. So what do you two think about Mr. Robot?
No.
Huh?
I said I wasn't going to talk about the impossible poem, but here I go. I mean, I got so distracted with the dang show, like with Lost. And even though it was mentioned in the solution of the podcast, he says something about it wasn't the Mr. Robot. I'm like a little hesitant to, I mean, I'm not saying there isn't, but any kind of like connection there for sure. But I'm just, I don't know, kind of hurt still on that one, that I'm like, I can't force myself again to get hooked into a new show, that I'm gonna start seeing all these connections. I
Oh
just,
yeah, trust me.
oh my
I've
God.
I've been going down that.
Okay. But I don't know. I get a little, I don't know,
Yeah.
weird about it, just because I've already done, I watched binge 6 seasons of Lost and it didn't mean anything. So
Well, I just recently watched, so I didn't know that Ben and them were doing like a Mr. Robot watch party. And I've
right,
never caught that basically, but I probably wish I had of. But last night I was on season 2, episode 11,
right.
and they were talking about, so you know how we had the picture, Stuef.com gave us the picture of the forest.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, or you could say it's the woods.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they were doing they were trying to decipher a code in that episode, and it was called a 13 algorithm. And you get rid of numbers by using the erodes woods, whatever that it numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard this before, but I was like, okay, we've got the woods, we've got the number 13 algorithm, the 13 that plays, there's the number AC 13. I was just like, there's so many things that you can draw from all of this, but you just don't know where to stop or if you're onto something or not. It's kind of like here. So you see, I'm sharing the screen.
Right.
This is the Wayback Machine, and this is Stuef.com timestamp. The only thing for 2024 is April 23rd, 423.
Now, do either one of you know what makes it like make that snapshot? Is there
It's
a,
either by the person, it would have to be like from Stuef admin,
okay,
or it would be something that triggers. I
but
don't
that,
know a lot about it, but it's just weird that it was on 423. It's the only
right.
one this year. It's also the one that um there's no song listed on here.
There's a song.
Oh yeah, there is a song. Never mind, there's a song.
It's in the middle.
I was about to say, I don't know if you can actually play them
But it's
again.
the one we had Fool's Gold.
Again. Right. And
So
that was
that
our second scene. That was whenever we like got it after that.
you said
And
it
I'm
was in
always
the
like
middle?
paying attention to who actually gets these things. Like when I look at that, I still wouldn't have gotten Fool's Gold unless, I mean, there was one that I found, but it was an easy one that you could just like reverse image search it. But otherwise, you're just kind
So
of
see, the
guessing.
song's not in here. That's what I was
What,
trying to get at.
wait, what date is this? Because this wouldn't have been April 23rd. Oh, this is December 28th. I see. Um,
This is 420. This is no, this one
yeah.
isn't. Let's go.
423 I messed with earlier. It was the Jimmy Eat World song. It
That's
played, but it
probably
just didn't show you. What was our timestamp on Jimmy Eat World? Was it the full song or did they give us a partial
well,
song?
here. I'm going to the timestamp, April 23rd, 2024, at 3:58:27. That's it.
The Jimmy Eat World one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that was actually timestamped on DB Cooper Day. And it was in a time frame where
And
we had no
this is the
update.
one that gave us 2 songs. They gave us the timestamp was September 19th. This was the one that gave 2 songs, and the difference was the 114. Again, just pushing us back to the beginning, but
Which is update 6, right? For Lincoln Park.
let me go back. I'm pretty sure it was hard. I'm like almost certain. Yeah. Update 6.
Yeah, so what did we get in that update? We got a pendulum and then a song that says the word pendulum and then link
So
and then park.
and you have to remember too, 5 and 6 were on the same day. They were both on 7/27. So I mean, you're already pushing the DB Cooper thing. So 5 and 6 were on the same day. 6, it shows that we got a countdown that added more time for August 1st, the clock pendulum, the Time magazine, and the clock, the one with no hands in the background, with the Linkin Park song with the 114.
Okay, so looking at this, the December 28th, 2023 timestamp says 3 snapshots, but there's only 2, is what I'm seeing.
That's weird. I don't know how it works.
Yeah, I dug a little bit into the way back and how the timestamps get entered in, and it's a random bot that goes through that somehow finds it, and then you'll have it manually done.
I mean, it's probably nothing. I just found it weird of all the dates of this year.
Oh yeah,
sure. 4/23.
Especially like you said, if it's something that they can snapshot themselves. I mean, that was on purpose, I'm sure.
Yeah. Anyway,
I just didn't know if it made snapshots if like, a significant amount of people visited that day or something. I don't know what makes a difference.
I have no idea. I pointed out to Ben, and he kind of discounted it like, oh, that's probably nothing, which, that probably is. I was just adding to the conversation is usually what I do.
I mean, I am too. I don't think anybody has big answers. I mean, besides people on the site. But again, I mean, I guess, hopefully we'll get some kind of movement tomorrow. What time is it tomorrow? I haven't checked. It's like in the afternoon.
So that's what I was thinking too, it's on Stuef.com. Countdown to 21 hours, 37 minutes, 53 seconds. So does that come out to 6 o'clock tomorrow?
How many hours does it say? It
says 21:37.
I'm always.
What time is it right now?
So that's 6 o'clock, right?
It's 8:20. So 21 to 24. Yeah, 5.
6 o'clock.
Is it 6? I don't know.
So I think it's 6 o'clock, so that's the other thing I pointed out on Discord. It seems like the last one was 5 o'clock. The last one was 4 o'clock. The last one was 3 o'clock, and so on. I put that on Discord, and somebody's like, maybe. I think it was Ben that pointed out, didn't think of that. Maybe that might be true. Because it seemed like they were like in order.
It's hard for me to even keep up with that part too, because they're always updating it beforehand. That's one thing I haven't taken notes on, exactly what time a day, which I don't know if it matters, but exactly what time of the day it's going to update. I've taken note of like what's the date, but I mean that's a good point. But just because we're already using like minutes and hours.
Has anybody got that figured out, like in a thread or anything? I haven't looked.
I don't know. I don't know if I've seen anything.
Because if that's true, if it is,
you think it could be counting down?
It could, if it's counting down. Well, it's counting on a clock would 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock each time. So that tells me the clock's in place somehow, time. So we have the Lepsterium clock up on the top right-hand corner of the Wonder Wall up there. A lot of people have talked about that.
I know.
I don't know.
I mean, I think it is, but I mean, so I'm always gonna push the podcast.
So if anybody's out there or anybody wants to look besides me, because I just don't have a lot of time, but I'm curious to know if it's been going like that, like it ends in 1 o'clock, it ends at 2 o'clock, it ends at 3 o'clock. But I think Chris said today we were talking about it. He said he thought that there was one that ended on the half hour, but I don't know. I don't remember that. But
yeah,
I thought like 2:30 or something was one at one point.
Yeah. Ben says for a while it used to be Tuesday at 2 o'clock.
And that's another thing. I'm like, why? I mean, there's always I feel like there's so many little mysteries That's what's so difficult. Like, obviously I'm still in it, but that's what's so difficult. Like, which little mini puzzles connect and why and everything else. So it's just the when did it stop doing the Tuesday at 2? I mean, could that tell us something, you know?
I'll have to. I'll try to go back and look at the threads and see if somebody's got something like that down in the threads.
So also our update ends the day before our first interaction with this website, as far as we can see, right?
Right.
So June 28th is our day 0 or whatever. We're in a leap year, so technically we have a full regular year, 365, that's going to be exactly, that wraps us around from each day without overlapping at all.
Yeah.
And you still get the full 365. But that also gives us a +1 -1 attribute right there because of the leap emphasis. And we also we didn't get a update on a leap on the 29th, did we?
We did.
Yeah, we did. That's right, we did.
Yeah,
Mama actually told me that like I had no idea, but every single card in a deck, like a deck of cards, like each one of them ties to a date, and a Joker is February 29th, like a red one. I don't remember. I think it's a red because that's what we have in our room. And I was like, okay, well, that's interesting that those two things can connect to each other. But here, something that you just made me think of. If this is ending, if this, I mean, again, I'm just making stuff up. But if this ends a few hours before midnight on the year that it, like, we knew about it or whatever, could that theory be kind of close to something? If, let's say, there's only a few hours left and they're like, okay, well, you have a few hours left before, like, so something disappears, like, forever, and that's why we're going to be scrambling, like okay, you better get your shit together kind of thing. Like,
starting
you
to
only
go backwards.
Yeah. And then boom, it's gone. I don't know, but seeing that that's the pattern here is you have all these people talking in forums and everything else, and then it goes away. Not just once, twice, maybe 3 times. I think that there's a third website somewhere that they took away all the Fenn stuff. And I'm sure there's good information in there. I don't know if that's the same thing here, that they'll just take it away.
You were talking, yeah. I don't know.
And I mean, it kind of ties back to the audio that we got the first day. If you remember, he says they'll never find it there, and they'll never find it there because it's going to be gone. This conversation, the treasure's always moving, and so is the conversation.
You'll never find it there.
Right.
The numbers that we got, 404, not found, error 404, not found.
I mean, a whole lot of sense, in a minute, right?
Which is a Mr. Robot thing. When I saw that, I'm like, what?
I know. I guess I'll just be coming to you, Brian, or, I don't know if you watch it, but for all this Mr. Robot stuff. I mean, at this point, I'm like so far behind on the watch parties. Like every time there is one, I'm like, I guess I'm not going to join because I'm like a couple seasons behind, I'm pretty sure. So
the thing about Mr. Robot is I should probably join the watch party with Ben and him because I would like to know about the puzzle part of it. I don't know when that all came into play with Mr. Robot, but I'm sitting there thinking I'm having hard enough time concentrating on the freaking plot, let alone trying to figure out a damn puzzle in the thing. That's what I was thinking. Maybe it's because of my age, because I'm older. Heck, I'm almost 60 years old now, so I can't think like I used to.
No, I mean, I don't even understand all that either. So I mean, I get it. I mean, I'm sure like start picking up on things as it goes on, but like that's what I mean. Like I don't feel like I could jump in at this point and understand what anybody's talking about, like the plot,
So I'm gonna reach out to Ben, Treasure Warriors, and I'm gonna have him on sometime to explain this puzzle stuff on Mr. Robot.
Maybe I know. Have you mentioned like the solution,
like
the puzzle that they did? Have you ever like looked at it? I mean, it looks complicated.
No.
You haven't, or
I haven't.
Okay. The solution is like available for anyone to see, and it is so complicated. And so I think that's also why I'm like turned off by it, because I'm like, okay, if this is what we need to know, I'm out, because none of that makes sense to me.
Hmm.
And
Is it a
if
lot of
that's
numbers?
if no, it's just like, okay, it's up to me again. I never played Mr. Robot, like the game, but I mean, I'm sure he'll correct me if I'm wrong. But there were so many like steps that you had to take, and in that sense, it's a lot different because they got confirmers. If you're wrong, you don't pass go. You have all
Right,
these
right.
that you take. But
Yeah.
each step that they took, I'm like, that is so complicated. So, and if that's the case, if it is Mr. Robot related, or like that's the design of this puzzle, then we haven't even gotten to step one because we haven't gotten any confirmers, in my opinion. So I'm like, okay, well, if time's almost up, then like we're screwed.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it's probably not Mr. Robot um,
Like,
puzzle related,
right,
but
right.
not to say that they haven't thrown Mr. Robot stuff in, because
Yeah,
Ben has talked about Mr. Robot. That's the way I take it. Not that it's a Mr. Robot puzzle. It's just
yeah,
it's possible they threw stuff in there that kind of relates to the chase in a roundabout way, We've got a treasure that supposedly wasn't found, but was found. We've got a mystery person, Jack Stuef, that can't be found. It, it is what it is.
yeah.
But anything to add, Chris? I mean, it's about 8:30.
Mr. Robot stuff, I think it's exactly how you're describing it. It's an attribute. It's like holds enough data or something maybe in an episode they needed. Like that 404 not found, sort of you brought it into my brain where it just stamped in there, and it's like, all right, that makes sense because they're trying to use a subtle resource. They can't just say it, but they're taking live results in the world to give you to lead you to, right? So they led you to something that said dirt, soil, and sandy. And it also is using Stuef. What is Stuef known for? He's known for finding a chest in the dirt. And then so you take that and then you marry it up to the show, and then you're automatically given 404. When you Google 404, you're gonna get Atlanta or you're gonna get 404 error code, not found. And so immediately when you hear Stuef, chest, and then not found, you're like, okay, what should I do with this? Should I believe it, or should I maybe go on this path and see why it told me that? Should I
Yeah.
believe that, Stuef didn't find it and maybe he's like his name is part, I don't know. That's why I gave you that list earlier to give maybe the community a reason to look at Jack as a way he could be a stand-in and not be connected to the chase to make you triggered, right? To
Right,
make you
right.
feel like he screwed you over, or he screwed Forrest Fenn over, or he screwed the family over. And I don't think that you can really get much anywhere else without dissecting why this medical student got here in the first place. And once people lean on that, then that'll be
Yeah,
easier.
I kind of forgot that you had sent that to me. Sorry about that.
No, no, you're good.
You just clued
I
it into
remember it.
me. I mean,
Yeah.
you're welcome to share it because it was pretty good.
I
Or do
mean,
you want me to share it?
sure, you can share it if you want. It doesn't matter.
Well, you just put on there, there's Tom Nasco, the lawyer, of Jack Stuef. And then another Tom Nasco in medicine. Okay, so then you got Jack Stuef is all about medicine, and medicine is tied to Finn's survival from cancer. This is an odd connection. I agree. Um,
I mean, you pausing right there. I mean, something that I did with those numbers, just talking about those numbers, I opened the codex because there's a lot of medical things that go hand in hand there, and so I actually went to those page numbers and I was like trying to use that. I was trying to use some kind of book, but I agree, Hammer. I think there's like obviously hints in the medical like connections there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then, Stuef, he's got an odd name anyway, It's kind of an
Yeah.
odd name, like Chris points out. Um, you've got his background with the, BuzzFeed and the Onion. I mean, that's also, with Stuef.com, you think about you think about all the rabbit holes you go down where you think about an onion. How many layers do you have to peel before something clicks? I got it. I figured it out. And
Yeah.
just, is it really just a name we're trying to figure out? Or is it two names? Because we've got twins, we've got two things, you know, you've got all these things that are, do you know about the scrapbooks, the
Yeah. Yeah.
scrapbook? So a lot of this stuff comes from the scrapbooks,
Right.
you know. So are you looking at text in the scrapbook, or are you looking at the number of the scrapbook? Is the
Yeah.
numbers playing, not the text? Is it all number based? And I don't know. It's one of those things that's, oh my gosh, the more layers of that onion peel off. And I don't like onions, so I hate onions. So I don't like peeling onions at all. But like I said, the frustrating thing is it's just no confirmations at all. I mean, I've sent Stuef admin some questions and got nothing.
To me, I think that no confirmers confirms that this was supposed to be like a study guide almost, like the other ones that you're supposed to, because you've been through everything before, you're going to remember all these things. Like you, Brian, and you, Chris, y'all were in the chase. So, I mean, y'all remember way more than I would. But then I'm connecting things with the podcast, obviously, because that's the only Fenn that I knew. And so it's just now if something were to happen with the website, it's going to be like remembering things. How is everything going to connect as a big picture?
Right.
I mean, because
got,
like there's like because there's no confirmers. I mean, to me, I'm like getting to the end of this, hopefully, gotta hope that it's just telling me that it was just meant to be a study guide that either, okay, I say that, oh gosh, there I go, it's either a study guide or this is the test. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm not making sense, because I'm like, okay, well, I could go either way there, I guess. So
yeah. Well, surely, I mean, are they just going to hand us the answer if we don't get the answer?
I hope not.
I mean,
if they do, I'm leaving.
That's where I'm
I want explanations. Like I'm like looking for, I want to know like all, even if I don't figure it out, like I want to know all like the hidden things that like, that's like the fun part to me, like knowing all the little Easter eggs and stuff that you should have picked up on,
Well, I mean,
but
are they going to give us the answer and then turn around and tell us what this was, what what the red herrings were? You were, um, because we've got the volcano time.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
are they just like done giving us hints and we're not getting it? And, like, I don't know. You would think at some point they would start directing us in a direction of a little
Yeah.
bit of confirmation if they really wanted us to solve this crazy thing. But maybe it's not supposed to be solved. Maybe that's maybe it has to do with the bells and the jars in the emerald ring. I don't know. I just throw that out there because it is sitting there in front of us.
Yeah.
It's a mystery behind the bells and the jars. And Fenn says on the jars, he says, I hid about 8 of them. There's Fenn speak, about 8 of them. So
Yeah.
talking 8, or are you talking 7? And
Right.
then there's something in that chapter. I don't have my book down here, but there's something at the bottom of that page where it's talking about burying the jars. And the first thing I went to is the stars. So what constellation has 7 stars? That's where my mind finally, went to. Just things like that. Well, then you've got the volcano. So I got to thinking of explosion. So what is around Santa Fe that the atomic bomb? Okay,
Right.
you got that whole area, and you got Einstein, you got Oppenheimer. Um, Einstein is on the Wonderwall. Well,
I can hear Hammer's brain from here. He's talking in his
yeah.
head. He's saying,
Well,
and
so when you talk about onions and peeling stuff, when you give me a word and emphasize a word, it's a key, and that's how I do it. Like when you bring in explosion, um, I hear the first thing immediately my eyes perk up is the word X. And so, like, where are you trying to get us to? When you put in a countdown that is nothing, and then it's for a volcano that's you go and research it, you find out about the volcano, but ultimately, did you need me to go find an explosion? And if I need an explosion, that can mean anything in the world, regardless if it's Oppenheimer, whether it's the Manhattan Project, whether it's a bomb. I hear X and then nothing else after that because it's not a word. And that's really what it simplifies down to. But they could have done anything in the world to do that. They could have done a time bomb from the movie Speed to do that. But they simply chose a precise volcano that had already erupted. And then they found an exact article to use the picture from that was copywritten in the picture.
yeah,
And so if you go read the article, then you see that, oh, we're talking about a volcano, but it didn't explode. It just sent out ash all over the airport, so they canceled flights. That's what the whole article was about. It was just there was too much ash and smoke in the air, and they had to close down the airports in Puebla. That was it, Puebla City. You know how close that mountain is actually closer to Mexico City. In fact, it's in between Puebla and Mexico City. Mexico City is one of the largest cities in the world. It didn't even get a mention in the article. The reason why is because when the explosion happened, all of the dust and ash was moving east, is why it was doing that. So Puebla got the whole entire article, and then their planes were grounded and they couldn't go anywhere because of a volcano in Puebla. Then you take Puebla and you look on it. Now we got a sister city, which is Pueblo, New Mexico, or Colorado, and we can now start putting in Rocky Mountains. But when I see it for me, because my ears perk up whenever I see time. When I hear the word Chris, my ears are exactly because I mean that's who I am. Like I hear time,
Yeah.
I'm hammer time. You want to talk about lightning or Thor? I'm a fucking hammer, right? And then all y'all are talking about is the word Chris. This is my first name. So everything that gets said, I am in the zone on
I
that.
know. That's
So
why I messaged you whenever I saw John Hamm. Them talking about John Hamm about on the time update. Like after I saw that, I was like, What do you know?
eventually it catches on because I'm the only one that can see it, but you can see it now. Brian could probably see it in some degrees, but when I see that, now all of a sudden I'm seeing myself because I go and I look at the sister city of this volcano. Is Stuef trying to tell me something that I said in the past? Because now it's given me my own look. Your Nashville is like my Oklahoma, right? So where I live at is Oklahoma City. You live in Nashville, Tennessee. And then we have Ben, he lives in Phoenix, Arizona. And then we have Packer Jack that lives, I guess, in Wisconsin. Like all these people have locations that we are led to in Stuef.com. When I see my name and I go down my own path, I'm led to a confirmation like you're talking about. It's talking like, why are they saying Puebla, Colorado? I could see that, but damn, we were just talking about Oklahoma City because of the Western Museum that he had all of this art in that supposedly had saved the museum, and it had everything to do with the video that you went and paid for on the DVD that you found through a scrapbook.
Yeah.
I know.
It led you to a guy that put all of Forrest's art in that museum in Oklahoma City because they were going under and they needed appraisals for $500,000 on paintings so that they could get funding to keep this museum open.
Yeah.
And then he ended up getting tossed out. And that was what that whole entire thing led me to. Immediately after that, the next update, we get this little volcano that shows up in the middle of all of it. And I'm like, all right, well, what's the Oklahoma thing and why is it pointing to Oklahoma? And then it captures who I am. And this is sort of maybe the reveal of on my end of where I can be at in this. But like, you have to like, if you see any type of what you would, I actually hold on to things that I don't say, that I keep buried inside. You probably know more than anybody in the chase as far as what I know about this, but the same way that y'all do. I don't know what you could take from a theory from that, but if you have an idea of what is to happen outside of or the overall of Fenn, then that's where you can start being the theorizer. You hypothetically say this is what's happening to see if Stuef.com can give you a confirmation of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I forgot that you completely, that's the problem with this is good things get said and then they get forgotten. That's what happens on Discord. I forgot that you mentioned the volcanoes, the twin volcanoes in Mexico. But yeah, I remember we had this conversation. It's pretty interesting. Well, so let's think about that for a second. I don't remember exactly. They were kind of centrally located, if I remember correctly, weren't they? In Mexico?
Yeah, they're pretty much in between Puebla and Mexico City. There's two volcanoes. One of them is
Shiloh. Remember Shiloh's text to Ben where he had gotten back from someplace in Mexico?
I think so. There's so many I have buried in my head.
So I don't, my mind just automatically went to that because I was like, wait a minute, Shiloh was coming from someplace in Mexico. Now, take that and see what that connects with what you're talking about, because that's where my mind went. I don't know if I mentioned that to you at the time, but
I think you actually did. I can't remember if it was text or in the Discord chat, but
so somebody in the chat, I think it was Ashley. She said, "Do you think the volcano time is going to start tomorrow?"
I don't think that there is going to be a volcano time.
I don't think so because we haven't gotten the movie. I don't think we've gotten the clip yet. So
the volcano just showed up randomly, and we haven't even strategized to see why it was there.
What date was that? What date was it?
On June 5th. We got it on June 5th.
Oh.
And then we had an update on the 4th.
Explosion. June 5th. That's when the treasure was found.
So, and then
supposedly.
So, and then that's where we go in and interpret it, sort of how we would take every avenue that could mean and get them all in front so you can see what connections are happening. So you can see the dialect they're trying to get for you, because I don't think that they're talking to air. They have to be communicating to something. And we're trying actively to see what they are saying. They may be trying to actively tell us what they're saying without telling us. And we're just getting lost in that translation there.
Do you think that, I mean, because I do, but do you think that whoever is behind the website, they may not be showing us through the website, but showing us in Discord somehow under a different user's name?
Say that again.
Okay, so because I don't personally ever think that it's even the Nashville things. Like, yes, I'm in Nashville, but I mean, so are like a million people. I mean, to me, when I think Nashville, I just think 615. There's the 6 and 5 again. So I think that if they're trying to communicate, trying to push an idea, trying to something, is there a possibility that they are not under Stuef admin, they're under some other name trying to help the conversation go on?
I think Ben's alluded to they.
Right.
I think Chris has kind of alluded to they too from some of your Stuef admin responses.
I know. Yeah.
So when they say they, that could be one person or more than one.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you have to think, I have two ways of looking at this. I look at it in the way that y'all do, and then I look up in my own perky ear way, like, all right, if they are, I gotta put myself in my own shoes, and then I put myself into your shoes, and that's why I do that. But if if I look at it in that context, it doesn't make sense that they would have to say anything in chat, that
Yep.
there would already be that in place. Um, like the Discord had to be built before Stuef.com in a way.
Right. And I think that it has been. I think everything's been planned. I think
Uh,
that there may be one element that was left to be interchanged. I mean, again, who am I to say
oh,
that? But let's just pretend it's the movie. You know, if they're talking to us, it may just be the movie that's changing every time. Like that's something that they can change where they're talking to us. But I don't think they're adding elements or adding it on a certain date or putting a certain timer on there, trying to say a certain thing, which I know that we kind of disagree on that point. So, I mean, we will know, I guess, one day. But to me, I think about it, and I think that that's already this. This is the biggest mystery, like continued mystery, like as far as like different types of platforms that you can go on. That I'm like, okay, well, this has got to have so many minds put into it and so many like things that all the details had, like all the I's were dotted and T's were crossed, I feel like, before it launched. And they may, like I said, they may have something that they can interchange every time. But if they mess with the puzzle too much, let's just say I quit tomorrow. They were trying to tell me something. To me, I'm like, then that element that they were trying to tell me is just left there for to confuse someone else if I'm already gone. So I don't know.
no, I think that that's a fair assumption because you're right. You in my eyes and probably other people, if they were to look at it and observe the same way that you would find that Whitney would be somebody that they could utilize to communicate with the same way that Ben, because of the information you're putting out into the public.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you were to leave,
Right.
that live data gets shoved up, and then everybody, is like, hey, how's Whitney doing? Where's she at? And then eventually that fades off because you're
Right.
forgotten, right?
Right.
But there could be a system in play. And I know I have a little bit of background in just knowing about the AI technology when it comes to chat bots.
Mm-hmm.
There is a way that you can just easily integrate it within Discord, obviously, but there's some pretty high functioning AI stuff that when you build out a list of keywords in conversation, especially in like chat GPT-4 style, it's going to create a pretty decent dialogue if it's trained through the stories. And you can also train it to keep within a parameter, right? When you start stepping outside of, you say a certain thing, it'll automatically bring it back to this type of conversation. You'll never know that it's bot. And I'm not saying that's probably some of that's happening within the chase to keep it going, but I think that it gets noticed the further that you get down those holes, and either the technology gets really great or people are doing this because it's their job. It's literally they are in this as a job. That's what they get paid for, and there's such a huge fund behind it that they don't know why, and it's fine for them. They're just participating and at the same time complaining, when can we get this? When can we get this? We know what's going on, but when can you tell us? And that's what they can't say because it's against their job. They lose whatever it is that they're tied to if they say, so they constantly play. And
Yeah.
I don't know if that could be you. I don't know if that could be Brian. They could be actors that are really good. The only thing that I know is the information that I carry and what I could see me as being a communication beacon the same way that Ben can be. But Ben would be like, nah, it's not me, it's not this. Me, I would be like, all right, well, this is what I would want to do to get this information out legit. So that way we can take advantage of the story and then make something big out of it rather than, it being, you know, like I actually want to make a movie. I want to do a production. I want to make books. There is so much story to do within this that we could create a lot of profit, but in a good way too, where people are excited to hear about these adventures. And these stories came from this old man that we were all attached to. And he gave us all these other stories to put it all together. No one else is doing that. You have absolutely nobody in the chase that is fighting to write for something, but you need delegates. You need a lot of delegates in order to make that happen because one sole person couldn't do it. K-Pro couldn't do this. Ben could not do this by himself. Ashley, Whitney, Brian, none of y'all, all of us need to help because all of our ideas are part of it. I couldn't go in here and then do all this and take all the credit and then be like, nah, because every one of y'all I took an idea from in some degree. Y'all took from me, everybody shares.
That brings me to a point, you kind of talking about that, but it made me think of, I think I've mentioned this to you before, that I'm amazed, like Whitney and say Riper Days, some people that haven't been in the chase, but they're paying attention to X Marks a Spot and now Stuef.com. But then you've got a lot of people that are still in the chase, not a lot, but you still got a bunch of them that really aren't paying any attention to Stuef.com.
Yeah, I know.
That's what I find amazing.
I even asked Chris, I was like, did you listen to me? I mean, at that point, the chase was over, and I asked him if he listened to the podcast, and he said no. And I was like, to me, that was just like a second chance almost, right? Even though, quote unquote, it ended out like it did. But then there's always just been like a stepping stone to the next something. So I am surprised a lot of people aren't paying attention to Stuef.com as much as they have. And I feel like that's kind of the beauty of it because there's nothing attached to it. So you almost have to be like, have faith that this is going to like pull through and there's going to be light at the end of the tunnel. Because to me, that is the big, like the biggest appetizer to me is like all these other like little things that like happened. But like, I'm appealed to the fact that like, there is no one person telling us here are the rules, like this is what you're looking for or whatever. Like that's what's fun for me is trying to figure out what are we even doing, what is the purpose here, what like.
Well, I mean, we have power players in the chase, but yet it doesn't seem like they're participating in Stuef.com.
I know. I hate that.
That makes them sus to me.
Me too. I'm like, I feel like everyone's in on this joke, and like it's just like it's gonna be not funny for me at the end because like, oh well, you didn't. That's why I said like, do you think these other players are other like Stuef admin is other players like and users on Discord? Because I mean, I look at Chester and I'm like, okay, which one of you are like actually Chester back there? And because I'm like, okay, why aren't the bigger players in the chase playing this game? But probably because they already are. We just don't know it yet.
Well, that could be. Well, so Galaxy, he's on Discord, but he's not on.
He is. Okay.
We are, but he's on the other Discord.
Okay.
And I've asked him numerous times. I said, just out of curiosity, is anybody? I figured one Discord is enough for me. I just didn't want to start joining their Discord, Ben's Discord, and I didn't pick sides. It just worked out. It just worked out that way.
Yeah.
Because I like Mike and Christy. I've got along with them. So, but I asked him, I said, so can you tell if anybody over there is working on Stuef.com? I'm just curious. He goes, from what I can tell, no. So now I could be wrong, and maybe he's wrong too, because he has been kind of distant lately. He hasn't been paying attention to too much. But I don't know. I could like somebody in the chat could tell me if I'm wrong or not. But it just seems like there's not much.
I'm not a part of that Discord either, so I have no idea.
I don't know, and maybe I just need to join that one too. But then it's like, oh my gosh,
I
something
peek
else
in
to take
there.
care of.
adding things to my plate because I can only like really only puzzle at night. And so I'm like, if I add more people that I'm supposed to watch on YouTube or more Discords that I'm supposed to pay attention to, I'm already like I'm reading things that like are from like 3 years ago already. Like I'm already playing catch up. I can't add anything else. So I'm like, hopefully, I mean, I'm kind of glad no one's playing over there because then if you did tell me that, then I'd probably be adding myself to their Discord right now, just trying to
Right.
read for the last couple of years of what they've been talking about. But I don't
Well,
know.
you talked about Stuef admin, or these
Yeah.
people maybe in Discord. They could be watching this right now.
Hmm.
And so
Yeah.
pay attention, as Chris would say, pay attention to what pops up tomorrow. And see if
Oh,
anything we talked about triggers something that happens tomorrow.
I know. That's why I've been kind of trying to take a back seat anyways to see who's going to get this movie because whoever gets this movie, I'm going to like probably read what their conversations have been for the last 2 years. I'm like, I don't know. I go back and I reread everything. I guess that's my biggest fear why I brought it up earlier that it's going to go away because then we're not going to have that material to go through anymore.
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe I'm just psyching myself up that it's going to happen and nothing it will.
What if I told you this, Whitney, that as long as you were friends with me and Ben and Roll and Brian and a few others that are hanging around, then you are safe. You are as safe as possible.
Did you see the chat?
No.
Sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Well,
But
no, I'm listening to what
Ben
Chris
says,
said though, because Chris is just already like sus to me, but he says these things, and I'm like, one day we're friends, and then one day I'm like sniffing out what he's talking about because I'm like, I don't know whether if he's just as delusional as I am, or if he's actually like, behind a little something there.
Could be
But
part of it.
he does this, and then I'm like, is he playing the game? Or is he playing this game, or am I like, is he just a nut like me? I don't know.
I'm trying to figure it out just like everybody else.
Hmm.
yeah. Well, Ben said, I think Stuef.com pointing to one explains it. Then he says, they're definitely watching you right now.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's funny whenever there's speakeasy. I think it was I don't know if it was the last one or it was like 2 weeks ago, and he said, "Oh, is he in here?" Like talking about Stuef admin. He said, "He in here?" And he said, "Oh yeah, they're in here." And I screenshotted it. So I was like, "Okay, which one of these people?" Because Stuef admin, the actual user, wasn't there. So I was like, "Okay, it's one of these people that's in this." So yeah, I still have that screenshot. So I'm like, "All right, well that narrows down the pool a little bit."
Yeah.
A little bit and narrowed down. I don't know if they have to watch live. All they have to do is go back and watch it, and then
Right.
but it might be cool live if they want to interact, if they are like a alias, if they're like a fake profile, maybe nomadic. I bet there's Zozo. I'm going through the chat right now. Zozo Rock says, ignore Stuef.com, waste of time. That could be like Stuef admin right there.
That's what, and then on top of that thought, I'm like, I'm sure everyone's like this. I mean, I say that, but I don't know who's freaking playing the game or who's like what side everyone is on anymore. But I think like I don't know, are they putting these things like in there just to like throw you off? And then are you spending too much time trying to figure someone out? And there's like all these distractions, and then I have to like pull myself back, like, okay, you're actually like playing a game, so just don't worry about it, kind of thing. But I do think about that because I'm like, who's trying to like throw me off here? And then who is like, who do you trust, kind of thing. And I think trust is like a big part of this game. I don't know, because they're gonna lead you one way or the other.
Well, if you pay attention to the movie clips that we've been given,
Right.
it's usually like a little I'm not coming up with the right word, but a speech. There's a speech there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a pep speech,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So this movie, obviously, I know we're going to get a pep talk out of it. Just don't know what that is yet. So hopefully we get a new clip tomorrow, I assume. And so I put in chat that it's a possible. Is it possible that the volcano countdown starts on the 28th,
Yeah.
which would be 1 year,
I think that
1 year,
that's possible. Yeah, because of the 1 year thing.
because that's the same day I got the email. Just so
I
you know.
know, I know, Brian. Okay. I've gotten it written down.
I mean, I don't know who the person is. I've tried
I
to
want
email
you to
them.
know. I
What?
did send a message after, you put that out there.
Oh, did I?
I
Did you?
Yeah,
Did you get
didn't get
anything
a
back?
response. Didn't get a response, but
Now,
you know,
Taco Cat. Taco Cat's another one
no.
too that's
I've been
suspicious.
adding all these people that haven't got responses from. So I got to hit something somewhere.
And
That's
in
what
the
I think.
top,
That's the point of that. I mean, everyone should be playing like that. I feel like.
I feel
when
like it's gonna be a pizza movie, I swear. As I don't know. I don't know how I even come up with pizza, but I don't know. It's gonna be
where did you
something.
come up with? How did you come up with pizza? I want to know that.
I think
Exactly.
I went and like searched comments in the past, and I went and searched the lighthouse in the comments, and I went outside of Stuef to see when lighthouse was mentioned, and I tried to find things that were said around the time lighthouse was said, and there was a lot of talk about pizza the same way that we were talking about tacos or something. And then I got to thinking about the hourglass, it being maybe like a 30-minute hourglass. And then 30 minutes or less came to my head on a delivery heist movie. And so I think pizza ended up being that part. And then, like, someone mentioned Mystic Pizza, and The Net, I think, was another movie that I thought of with Sandra Bullock as about a pizza website.
Mhm.
Just
I
stuff.
mentioned Mystic Pizza to you.
Yeah, you did.
Well,
And then
I wasn't going to mention it until I looked at the year that it was 1988, which is the same year Finn got cancer. And I was
yeah.
like, that's interesting. I'll throw it out there to Chris.
Oh, I do want to talk and mention before it's like too late, but the Prison Break show, how its connection really lines up with DB Cooper. It was something that already existed in the world before Finn had started the thrill of the chase. Even before My War for Me, the show was on. The very first episode of Prison Break is a reference to DB Cooper, and his name in the show is Charles Westmoreland. It's not DB Cooper, but with Ben and his solve in the Back to the Future, he's pretty adamant on the word Riverside as where Doc Brown lives. But the house that is in the movie is actually on Westmoreland Drive in real life. And so we have DB Cooper as Westmoreland in the show Prison Break. And then we also have the Riverside Drive Back to the Future Doc Brown, then maybe you'd be able to connect in a certain degree, but they're just keywords at the moment. And you may find that that would be through a story how Finn was able to connect the DB Cooper story through Back to the Future. You can use Steven Spielberg because Steven Spielberg is born in 1947, and anybody born in 1947 was the same year that the CIA was created and the Air Force. In fact, they were created on the exact same day. The Air Force and the CIA have the exact same birthday. So Finn was in the Air Force. And then, so the CIA, you can sort of marry things up with dates like that. And a birth date would be crucial, I suppose, if you're talking about a high attribute to something you're looking for. To identify it would be a birthday. When someone asks you the identification, they usually ask you your birthday and your name so they can narrow you down from 8 billion people in the world. And so the Prison Break leads into our Stuef.com kind of. We have the word cell kind of embedded because we're talking about a phone in a
Mhm.
way, but we're also talking about the only game that anybody's won on here, which was Bavetta and the Galatron game. What did he do? He found a specific cell within the whole entire grid that worked. And then we plug that into some of our songs that are in a prison, that are trapped, or
Mhm.
you can create variances of these things that all mean the same thing, and all of it will go back to, what do we need? Prison. And where are we going to be at? Well, we got Shawshank Redemption, which I would think would be part of the end because of my solve. And then you have Back to the Future, DB Cooper, Charles Westmoreland, and Prison Break, Al Capone, Alcatraz, all of it. Like, it all becomes something. Why did he need to use the word cell? Maybe the letters are important because they equal numbers, and then that could be like the coordination. That could be like, all right, everything's within that, but he's gonna dilute it with other bullshit. That's how you simplify it in my eyes, all the way through.
Any of the people that are in Prison Break in any of our movies?
So
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
no, so I wanted to point out, so what you're talking about is the cell. Okay, let's go back to the lyrics of AC/DC, Back to Black.
Before you go into that real quick, Brian, I need to bring back to why cell would be important and
Okay.
how it blends into medicine as well. Okay. Like when you start talking about, if Jack were able to solve this and he had an advantage, the reason why he would have an advantage, because he has books that he's in front of all the time that may have medical terms that could have been the only reason that he could. And it just needs to be that shadow. But the word cell can go into the medical terminology because of a physical cell, and that's where we all start in human nature, is a cell, one single organism. Sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. I appreciate it. No, he talks about, you know, I've been too long. I'm glad to be back. Yes, I'm let loose from the noose. It's kind of like, you know, play on words, you know what I'm saying? Let's keep me hanging about. I've been looking at the sky because it's getting me high. Forget the hearse because I never die. I got 9 lives, cat's eyes. There you go. Yeah, kind of, you know, he's like being locked up, you know, he's got something to say. Kind of plays off that what you were talking about. You know, Whitney, I was going to tell you. So when Chris shared with me Prison Break,
Mm-hmm.
I went directly to that and was watching it. I was
Yeah.
free that night, so I was like, I'm going to watch it. So I got to the part where it's got the mention of DB Cooper. It's up on the wall and he's ripping it down. And you have to really stop it really quick or you don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
So the funny thing was my wife got home and I was reading it to her and she was paying attention, but she was in the dining room. And all of a sudden she comes back and she goes, who did you say it was? I said, Charles Westmoreland. And she goes, well, that's weird. She goes, the place she used to work at was the Columbia Daily Tribune here in town, a newspaper. And she goes, the editor of the Tribune was Charles Westmoreland. I'm like, okay, you're sus. Get out of here.
You posted a picture the other day. You said your wife says because
Because she was playing the song
oh yeah, that's what it was.
Somewhere with a Rainbow. But
I remember. I know. I found some white glasses in my son's room, and I was like, "You're sus."
Hey, I had a friend request.
You should have worn them tonight. You should have worn them tonight.
No, played the game like everyone else.
I had a random friend request from somebody, and I went to look at their profile, and the only thing that I could see was that damn Izzy song where he's singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow. That was the only thing that they had on their Facebook page that I could visually see. Everything else was blocked. And I'm like, come on, guys. Not gonna do better than that.
Crazy. So you think it could be Stuef admin?
I mean, if I'm thinking in that context, then I'm actually probably in the show Mr. Robot at this point and doesn't even know it.
Well, guys, we could probably go on all night long, but it's after 9 o'clock. You're in a different time zone, aren't you, Whitney?
I'm in Central Time Zone.
Oh, are you Central?
Yeah.
Okay. I was trying to remember where that cutoff was. I think it's around Indianapolis, isn't it? Like
Yeah, it's like right
along
by
the
her, I
line.
think.
Yeah, right by you. You're probably right on the line
I
then.
no, I think there's a couple hours before. I don't know. I
I
Yeah.
think
think
it's hours.
it goes all the way to Pensacola. I know Pensacola is in Central Time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we need to get Whitney to go to Nashville
It'll take me
She,
about 5 minutes.
yeah, she already there.
and um and go to the Finetti's
Oh
Foundry.
yeah, the other
If
Chris.
there's ever anything that
You've heard the
anybody
Chris Jones, right?
do what?
You've heard Chris Jones, have you?
I've I've heard of him, yeah.
You ever ran into him anywhere along the way there?
No. I mean, I wish I was tied to all these Nashville things that everyone brings up, but it's just again, I feel like it's the area code. It's got to be something other than I don't know.
No.
I don't know. Nashville is pretty sus though. I don't
So
know.
do you know about the auction, the Fenn auction, the chest and all that? The chest
Right,
didn't get auctioned, but some of the stuff, a lot of the stuff did.
right. I kind of joined Discord around that time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was doing the podcast by then, but I joined, so I got to see some of the, like what everyone was talking about when it was happening, I guess.
So do you know about the affidavit that went along with the auction?
No, I
By
guess
it was Jack
yeah,
Stuef
I'll have to
affidavit.
remind me, I guess.
So it was stamped Davidson County.
Oh yeah.
Did you know about that?
I feel like I have.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Oh, did we get you choked up on that one?
Yeah. I had like a bubble in my throat for a second. I feel like I
She's
remember
sus, Chris.
with Davidson County, actually, now that you say that.
Yeah.
So the story is that, all right, the day before or a couple of days before, I can't remember, the auction for Heritage happened on November 11th of 2022.
Mhm.
And like a day or two before that is when the affidavit had been notarized and signed. So that way it was legit and the transaction, I guess, was complete, saying that it was real, and I can't remember, but the notary was in Davidson County, which we assume would be in Nashville. If Stuef had to travel, he'd probably be near the airport. But then I believe Rudy is from Nashville, I've heard
Right,
as well.
right.
And so if Rudy has the stick and if he's a stand-in actor, then they don't really need him if you are a real actor because you would be the real person in Nashville that they needed. You showed up if you're real. Rudy doesn't need to be there. And it was emphasized to be fake because he had a fake stick that couldn't make sense. They can't go find that stick.
He
Sorry.
also had he also had a replica chest from
Yeah.
Benetti.
So he's there as a design until someone got in his place, which needed to be there. So the hints around that can be so maybe you and I are probably the only real ones at this point, and Brian maybe, or Brian's just our handler, and he's over here just making sure that we're staying within the
Honestly, I have no idea what I'm doing. It's even odd for me to even be on YouTube, honestly.
Yeah, I love it. It's fun.
Or
Just to,
I've been like studying everything that's behind you. I've
Oh,
been
all
at
this?
classes that have like cards on them. I don't know. I don't know what that little white box. I've been
Oh,
watching.
this here? This
No,
here?
no, on
Oh,
your little shot glass.
oh, up here?
With the cards, yeah. I was
Oh,
like,
yeah,
okay,
those are,
it's one
yeah.
of our cards on there.
Shot glass card, yeah.
you start
Shot
to
glass.
look like my fireplace mantle.
I know, and your fireplace mantle. I brought that up the other day. I was like, okay, I feel like I don't know. I'm sure everyone's just playing this game that I don't know the rules of yet. But
We'll have to do this maybe again next week because I know there's going to be things you'll think of. Oh, yeah, I should have mentioned this, or just make notes of it. If you want to do it next Wednesday, I'm game for it. If not, that's okay. I understand.
we'll see what's happening by next week because you never know what that timer
Yeah,
for tomorrow.
you don't know. And just like I said, pay attention to what all we talked about on this show and see what happens tomorrow.
I know. I've already cataloged pizza for tomorrow.
Hopefully
He's
it's
been
not, so I don't get the most of the susness. I'm trying
Yeah.
to gather everybody, not make them hate me.
Oh no,
I'm
why would anybody
just paying
hate you?
attention to what you're saying because I feel like,
I
you've
just
been
glad
around longer than both of us.
I'm just glad you're going to be coming up in a couple of weeks or 3 weeks. Take you out,
Yeah, I'm
do some
excited
frisbee
too.
golf, and not that I've been practicing or anything, but
I'm only 2 hours away from you right now. I'm in Springfield right now.
are you? Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
cool. That's nice.
and I made it up here, and then I'll head up there again in a couple
Yeah,
weeks.
and I'll take you to Shakespeare's Pizza.
Yes, I love pizza. Pizza, pizza.
Well, everybody in the room and the chat, thanks for joining us. Sorry I didn't pay much attention to the chat, but we were just having a pretty good conversation. Everybody seemed to enjoy it. So I bet next time we probably even get more people interested. And Chris, reach out to anybody if they want to jump on, like Riper Days, or y'all know somebody. I mean, I will just provide it and I'll just sit back and listen because you all know a heck of a lot more about Stuef.com than I do.
We don't know nothing,
I mean, like I said, what I'm interested in now is if the timestamps on the countdowns have been counting down from like 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, or if it's been like 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 4, 4, 5. I'm curious to that because I just thought of this the other day. I was like, wait a
I feel
minute.
like we could fact check that. We could figure
Yeah,
that out. And
yeah,
will that matter though if you're in a different time zone? Like, okay, let's say that it's
true.
3 for me. What if it's 4 o'clock for someone else? There, if it's counting up to 10, I mean, we would have to know what time zone we're
Yeah,
looking for.
yeah. Whoever out there, if somebody has that already, they can just let us know what time zone they're in, so that way we can figure it out for each one of us.
Yeah. I know that's a tricky thing. Is Are we looking for a time like that? I'm sorry, I know you're trying to wrap this up, but there was at one point in this, oh, I have another idea,
Mhm.
was I was like clicking things at certain times. And there's a lot of things that show like the red cards mean AM. That's what like Mama Q was telling me about. Like the red ones are daytime, the black ones are nighttime. And so I was like, okay, well, if it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, I literally set like alarms and I was like, okay, I'm gonna start clicking stuff at this certain time that I would think that maybe something would change. And obviously nothing happened, but you have to think, okay, well, it's 3 a.m. for me, but is it supposed to be 3 a.m. for someone else, like a different time zone? So it gets kind of tricky with not knowing
So
that.
in my eyes, Stoof admin basically got you to say the word time 35 times
Mm-hmm,
in a 30-second time frame.
mm-hmm.
Is how I look at it. Like, what do
Yeah,
they need you to say the word time for? And then that's it. Like, you don't have to know what time it is. You don't have to know what time zone it is. It's clear that their emphasis is on time at this point.
right.
Well, so you talk about time. There's, I'm drawing a blank. 'Cause I don't have a book in front of me. But in the Thrill of the Chase, there's the page that's dedicated that Forrest talks about time with asterisk.
Yeah. So
I've
that
like
shit, correct.
tried to think, I've even submitted your name, Chris, even though I'm like, okay, well, you got Hammertime over there, but I'm like, I've tried to think about how else can you look at this time, like I said, like even the one that we have now is 4/14. I thought maybe Ben's birthday, but then I was like, okay, well maybe it's DN, like for Delito. It's just like your avenue of time. There's so many like little pockets that you could go down.
Mhm.
So I don't know. It's a hard puzzle, but it's a fun puzzle.
Right, right. Yeah,
Very
I
fun.
was interested to hear you talk about the X marks a spot with your how
You
you
knew I was bringing it up.
well, I haven't looked at any of that. Like I said, I only listened to X marks a spot just as, because of the Fenn story per se,
Yeah.
just to hear what they had to say. But I've never connected it really with Stuef.com, but listening to you talk about it, it's like, wow, maybe I need to pay attention to go back and listen to that.
Right. I mean, I've already listened to it, but I did re-listen to it to see how else I could connect it. And I mean, there was obviously like things that they added to the room, like the planets and stuff that obviously said we could connect the two. But then breaking it down per episode, per update, like comparing it that way, there are connections that you can make.
It seems like that the few that are participating in Stuef.com that are actually putting most of the effort into it in a lot of ways didn't have anything to do with the Fenn chase in a way. Like that,
yeah,
between Whitney and Riper and I think Roll, those three came directly from XTMS. They didn't even have anything to do with Fenn, and they can see maybe some door opening between that podcast and Stuef.com and then how it all relates to Forrest, while people that have been studying Forrest Fenn for this whole time can't they don't even care to see the connection. But you're literally someone that has nothing to do with Forrest Fenn that was like, whoa, now I believe everything in Forrest. You got warped into it. And then people that were already into it got warped out of it whenever you came in. It's weird. So like your K pros went your other way to Chaseopoly and tried to get, people engaged through stuff through hearsay or what they thought was good just to create chatter. But this website that's sitting here is literally bringing in people that have nothing to do with Forrest Fenn at all. And they're not even promoting to them.
I will say it, and it may be because we're still like newbies, like we don't have that much time under about that. People that have been burnt for so long, I can see why they would want out. I can sympathize with that. Me, I've only been in it. To me, I'm like only 2 years. It feels like a lot longer, but it's probably why I still have energy to do it. I don't know. I don't know if that's why or what.
It makes a lot of sense. Like I said, I said earlier that, even though I was doing some videos, I didn't start really doing too many videos when XR Marks the Spot was going. But yeah, like I said, I just never got into it.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have gotten into but I never would have figured anything out by listening to the the final finale. It's like, oh gosh, I'm so glad I didn't put a lot of time in that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. And that makes it horrible for the rest of it. I know Bear was very upset with that, which I'm surprised he's connected to Stuef.com the way he is.
I know.
But like he said, that's what he likes to do. It takes his mind off things.
I don't know. I got my eye on Bear.
Yeah, he's kind of suspect. I've tried to get him to come on but yeah, he hasn't bit yet, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Hopefully something happens tomorrow that's fun.
Yeah, we'll see. It'll give us something to talk about. See what the volcano countdown does. Maybe not.
This is fun. This is the first time too. Isn't it first time for you, Whitney, on live?
I'm like, I don't know why y'all wanted me on, so because I can't really talk Forrest Fenn with y'all, but I mean, you said that y'all were talking about Stuef.com. I was like, well, I have, I've been doing, so I can talk about that for a minute, but.
Oh, you're one of the most active ones in there. I mean, people love to hear what you have to say whenever you're chatting in there for sure. I can't imagine.
We should get Roll Tide on here sometime too.
Riper will be our next catch.
Yeah, I didn't know Roll Tide was right here in Missouri. He's like south of Missouri.
I know.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
The only time I've ever he was on Speakeasy one time and he talked about his finding gloves or something like that. I messaged him afterwards and I told him, I said, I did not expect his voice with it. Like I've been talking, through Messenger, or whatever it's called on Discord this whole time. I'm like, he has like such a Southern drawl. And I was like, I did not expect that. So yeah, I think he's done a lot of work this past year too. And I'm sure he would be able to contribute.
Yeah. Yeah. Way more than I could, that's for
Having
sure.
me on, Brian.
Yeah, no problem. Glad having both of you on. And thanks everybody in the chat. Be safe, be kind, be positive, and have fun. That's what I say. But yeah,
Bye.
Thanks, Brian.
Chris, we'll see you soon sometime. Whitney, good to have you. And like I
Thank you.
said, I don't have anything planned next week. So if you all want to do Stuef.com again, we can. Keep it
I'm
shorter
down.
because less to talk about. We'll just go over
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
right.
date, see what's going on. All
Okay.
righty, guys. Y'all have a good time. Good week.
Yeah, thanks,
Have a
Whitney.
good
Thanks,
weekend.
Brian.
Yes, no problem. I got to get this thing turned off.
Bye bye.
What's that?